All right. First of all, you've got people who are telling you that it sucks. In my honest opinion, and I have been doing cartooning for a little while, in my honest opinion, those people are kind of full of shit and they don't know what they're talking about. They're not looking at it objectively. They're not looking at what makes a cartoon a good cartoon. They're giving you the cut and paste answer that I guess they think makes everything good, but that's not the case. Don't discount what people are telling you, though, because it's coming from somewhere and they have their reasons, but take into account that notice when people aren't looking at your intentions. I'm looking at this and I see that you're doing a cartoon, so I'm going to focus on trying to help you make cartoons that are a little stronger and, you know, something that you can do and are very appealing, not just to you, but to other people who look at them. I'd like to start by saying this is one of mine. Pretty quick recent one. There's not much difference at all between mine and yours. You know, people, the girl who's saying, oh, anatomy and fabric folds. Yes, there's something of fabric folds. They're not accurate, but they're there. And yes, of course, I have a stronger sense of anatomy. I've been doing this for longer. But that stuff comes from pure study. That it's more of intermediate type stuff. As you learn that, it will reflect in your work. You don't learn it to make your work better, so to speak. You learn it as you gain knowledge and your work gets better, if that makes any sense. It's part of, just like if you're doing math, you won't just learn how to add, you also have to learn how to multiply. It all comes together, and if you don't know one, it's not going to, not knowing how to multiply doesn't stop you from getting the same answers, because multiplication is just a faster way of adding. You can get the same answer from adding, but multiplication is more sophisticated and takes more skill, and you are better at math when you learn it. If that makes sense. I'm trying to, you know, whatever. All right, so fabric anatomy, don't worry about that. Line quality, yeah, let me just talk about the line quality real quick. It looks like you're using some sort of micron or, you know, felt tip pen or something that has one same size. The line doesn't change. You're not going to get much line quality out of that, and line quality is the thickness, thinness, and variance of your lines. You can see here I get the lines will go thick to thin. They've got nice little tapers going. I use a brush. I use a brush and a pot of ink. I found that with microns, my work is very squiggly, and I actually have a problem where I shake a lot, which is why I didn't do this in Photoshop. I'm trying to gain more control, and I find that digitally I just don't have the control that I used to. But I find the brush gives me more control and leeway than, and more expressive strokes than the microns ever would. So it might be a case of experimenting. Try different things and see what works for you. People are saying, oh, it's sloppy, it's sloppy. Yeah, that might be the microns. My micron work doesn't look any better than yours. And I've been doing it for a while, so, you know, it might be what you're using. You gotta find what works for you. Anyway, so the things that make this different from this is the silhouette, construction, gesture, and 3D space. So let's just move this. Here we have your silhouette. And, you know, you just black it all in and see what you get. I think you actually have a really great sense of asymmetry, which that's going to help you a lot. Even though you've got absolutely no gesture whatsoever, there's nothing going on here, you still have things that are different on each side, but it's still balanced. So that is, I'd say, probably one of your natural strengths. You know, work with that. The reason why I blacked everything in and I left the back hair blue is so you can see the parts that work. Because there's nothing going on with the hair and you blacked all that in, you'd actually lose all of this that's going on there that makes it interesting. When you black all this in, it's just like a bulbous thing that it's horrifically boring. So you have the makings of a great silhouette. You just need gesture, and you just need to realize that you don't want to cover up good elements with things like the hair in the background. If it's a case, did she need to have the long hair? You know, could it have been pinned up? And this is probably, I don't know if this is avatar art or something, so, you know, but think about things like that. You want the hairstyles and the clothing to be designed so they have a good silhouette. So I'm going to use one of mine as an example. You have a decent silhouette going on, but you have no gesture. This one, let's move that up a little bit. So we have a silhouette and a gesture here. The gesture is, think of the lines that make up the movement, which I usually like to think of the line down the middle. You know, yours is just, you know, you have no gesture. Here you see there's a nice curve of the arm. There's a break in the arm and the hand. You can see what each thing is doing. You've got a nice curve in the body. The balance. You can see what's going on. And even if you couldn't tell, you know, and that's straight, it doesn't matter. Like, you get a sense of movement. You want to have that. Even if nothing is going on and you're still standing still, there's always balance and, you know, movement going on. And another thing that happens in this one is, what's also missing is that sense of 3D space. Even though it's just blacked in, you can't see the thing, you know that this leg is in front here. You know that this arm is in front because his leg is in front. And you can tell, meaning this arm's in back, you can tell by the curves of the body and just, this feels like a side because this feels like a back. It's kind of complicated. I'll get into it in a minute. And just to demonstrate the difference with the line quality thing, this is the actual image that I was using. This was done with a micron, with a whole set of microns. And ignore my crappy marker work. I'm just starting to learn. But, you know, stuff like here with the pulling, and even though the cloth looks like taffy, with the pulling here, that actually worked well with the microns. The outside lines, I don't like how the microns look. They look clunky, and to me they look very messy, which is why I go for a brush. So once again, not every tool works for everybody. What works for you might not work. What works for other people might not work for you. Give another tool a try. Alright, so let's take your same, and we're leaving anatomy out of it. I'm using the exact same type of anatomy you are using in your image. So, some things to know about gesture and silhouette. You notice here the silhouette, the gesture's open. You know, the arms are up, it's active. You've got the weight balancing over this leg. This leg comes out. You've got different levels of the shoulders. One's higher than the other. You've got this Z thing going on. Shoulder down, weight to the side. This counterbalance is called contrapposto, which you don't need to know the term of itself, but you want to get that in your drawings when you're making your gesture. You want there to be differences, opposites going on. If, you know, one leg is out, you know, you push the hip to the side. If one leg is up, the other one is forward, one is back. One arm is higher. You don't want it to be the same on both sides, like how you have it where it's just both arms down, both legs straight. You don't want that at all. Symmetry, complete symmetry is bad when you're making the drawings. So just you know, just experiment with it. You don't have to change your style or the shapes. You just take these basic things and it works with every single style there is. You know, a lot of people will tell you, oh my god, don't draw the anime, don't do chibis. You can do it, just, you know, not for study, of course, which study is what will make you better. But, you know, when you're just doing for fun, do whatever feels good. Construction. So we've got, I always start with our head. For these little figures, I'll do rib cage and hips. And the rib cage and hips actually make like a little macaroni. You can think of it like a little macaroni, or just like a little pillowcase, a little pillow. You can bend that any way you want. If you want her to be leaning forward, you can bend the pillowcase. Head's leaning forward, arms forward. You can push it more. This leg's up. This leg's down. This arm's back. This arm's forward. So that you get, if this is the center line on it, you get it curving away. You can do whatever you want with this pillowcase. You can twist it. So that way, when you do this, the pillowcase represents your torso, and, you know, top and bottom, it twists and it moves just like the human torso. Start using that. That will help you get a lot of nice gestures. And I don't know if you've ever done any exercise, but that area is called your core, and all your movement comes from there. So, you know, use the core, open up the gestures, do things with the arms, even though she's not doing anything here. She's just posing. Whatever, something's going on. Alright, so we're going to take the same gesture and we are going to add 3D space. So with this gesture, all we had was up and down, side to side. The difference with 3D space, up is still the same way. Depending on how you're oriented, side to side isn't straight to your side. Side to side is the character or the object side. And this allows you to also draw back and forth. This makes the one great difference, and until you can do it just out of your head, I would draw the ground. Give yourself a ground space. That will remind you that you have a back and forth, side to side, up and down, but it's not your side to side. So you actually can have that back and forth. So you still want to have your construction. Say, you know, your little flower, your pillowcase. But in this case with 3D, your pillowcase gets a side. So we've got the front, and we'll give it like a center line, which will actually twist it a little bit. We've got the front and the side. That's the thing about 3D. You know, you've got your 2D, messy, but you've got your 3D, which, you know, it's got a top, it's got a bottom, and it's got sides. So you want to make sure that this has that too. Okay. The next part is space. The space it takes up. That's why I said to draw the ground. Even though you're doing these little point feet there, you can still make it flat and make it a foot that actually rests on the ground. So rest the feet on the ground, and when you do that, you can see where this one is further side to side than this one is. And that's already given you a sense of space, of it taking up space. So because of that, this leg automatically comes front and now you know that there's a front and a side to the leg because you define that space. So say with our same gesture, arm raised, of course the cloth, now you're going to look down the sleeve. So you have to account for that you could see the sleeve. This arm's in front. This arm goes back, so you can make it look a little shorter and a little slimmer because it's moving back in space. That foreshortening is a little more complex. I'm not going to get into that right now. But that makes this one in front and this one in back. And when you do that, you get this sense of space. And then on things like your head, you know, you can give the head a little tilt, but you can decide any direction. You have the character look in a direction. Like, even if it's just looking the same way yours was looking, you know, show that curve, that it's a sphere and not You know, it's a ball, not a circle. You can make her look in this direction. If I make her look in this direction, you know, I just put the eyes in there. I can make her look in this direction. You know, it depends on what you want to do. What you want to do is you want to make sure it wraps around. It wraps around the face, just like the center line there. So the mouth will do the same thing. The mouth will wrap around. And even if it's open, it's still gonna, you know, wrap around the head. Speaking of the wraparound, the bandages also need to follow the head. So if you do, that makes a big difference in making your stuff look nice in 3D. The same thing goes for the her little belt there. You want it to wrap around the waist. Depending on if she's pushing her waist forward, I'm going to make it that, and it's wrapping around. The same thing will go for the dress. It will wrap around on that side. And then I have with the hair, because now you've got motion in the gesture, add the hair last and let the hair follow your gesture. You'll find that you'll get something a lot more dynamic going on. And so in the end, and ooh, this has gone on long enough. It's gone on way too long. Sorry. In the end, we have our new silhouette, which, because it's in 3D, the lines here, this doesn't get lost behind. It doesn't get lost behind the hair. You know this is in front. You know this is in front. You know this is in front. And your silhouette, even though stuff is hidden, visually it doesn't go away. And you know that the clothing wraps around. You know, it doesn't visually go away even though you can't see what's going on. So there you have it. I don't think what you did sucks at all. You just need to work on those 3 things, which is gesture, construction, and 3D space. Stuff like I said, like stuff like the anatomy and the clothing folds, that'll come later. You know, you're cartooning. You just want your gestures. Your gestures are pretty much the most important thing. Your gesture and how you use your shapes. So you want your gestures to be clear. I'm not going to get into gesture right now, like acting and everything, but you want them to be clear and a little larger than life, so they're nice and active, and it makes things more appealing. All right. So, you know, hopefully I'll see more of your stuff on Picture Post.